Hello, everyone. I am Cheryl Baker, and this month I get to celebrate with you Black history as we read together. I get to read one of my favorite authors, who happens to be my sister, Renee Watson. Renee has won the Coretta Scott King Award and the Newbery Honor. Those are pretty big. And so this month we're going to read Ways to Grow Love, Ways to Make Sunshine, and lastly, one of my favorites, Born on the Water. Let's journey together this month as we read. I am going to read today Ways to Grow Love by Renee Watson. Chapter 17, Daddy-Daughter Days. It's already the middle of August, and soon we'll be going back to school. This summer hasn't been like any other summer, but it hasn't been too bad. Since Mom is still on bed rest and Dad has to sleep during the day, I've been spending a lot of time at Grandma's. She gives me an allowance for helping in her garden and for doing chores around her house. Love is blooming in Grandma's front yard, just like she promised. The marigolds she planted in the spring are bursting out of the ground. The yellow, the red, and the orange flowers lead the way to the backyard where we are tending to Grandma's vegetable garden. Today, we're getting ready for our fall bounty. You know what that means? Grandma asked. I try to remember. Kale, spinach, and collards. We've got to have collards, Grandma says. We start planting, and even though the marigolds are proof that Grandma knows how to make things grow, still I can't believe so much will come from this tiny, tiny seed. As we work, Grandma sings and talks to the soil, and when we are all finished planting and are walking back to the front of the house, Grandma talks to her marigolds. She says to me, you have to nurture the things you want to grow. I start singing with Grandma, leaning into the flowers like they are microphones. I am so into our song, I don't even realize that Dad is now here. He comes to pick me up so we can go to the library. I am finally finished with my summer reading challenge and ready to turn in my sheets and pick up my prize. Grandma wipes her hands on her apron, then digs into her pocket. You're the perfect little helper, she says. She tucks money into the palm of my hand and kisses me on my forehead. I'll bring her back next weekend, Dad says. Grandma says, I hope that's a promise. And then we leave. When we get into the car, Dad says, before we head to the library, I need to make a stop. Where are we going? I ask. Downtown. Your mom made more wallets and purses and tote bags for Millie to sell at the Saturday market. I need to drop them off. Can we stop by Miss Laura's booth? It won't take me long. I know exactly what I'm looking for. Dad says yes, and after circling the blocks, round and round and round, we find a space to park. Dad takes out a box from the trunk, and we walk over to Millie. Just walking through the crowds of people makes me miss being here every weekend. Maybe I can convince Dad to stop by the concession stand and get a snow cone or an elephant ear on our way back to the car. We drop the new products off to Miss Millie, who is so glad to see me. She hugs me really long with an extra squeeze before she lets go. Give your mom my love, she says to me. She hands Dad an envelope and says, she sold out of everything. Her summer knits are a hit. Dad takes the envelope, takes the cash out, and puts it into his wallet. Thank you so much for selling her items. We need every penny we can get. My pleasure, Millie smiles and gives me one more big hug before we leave. I lead the way to Miss Laura's booth. And once we get there, I go straight to the table where the hairpin should be. Oh, it's not there. Well, sweetheart, someone must have purchased it, Dad says. I can't believe it. I finally have the money to get it, and now it's gone. Just as we were about to walk away, Miss Laura walks over and says hello. She reaches under the table and pulls out a small velvet pouch. I had a feeling you'd be back for this, she says. She hands me the pouch, and when I open it, there it is, the vintage hairpin. Dad says, what do we owe you? And he reaches for his wallet. Dad, I'm gonna pay for it with the money that Grandma gave me. You keep that for something else. I got this. Dad pays for the hairpin. Thanks for saving it for me, Miss Laura. I can't wait to add it to the others. And maybe one day you'll wear it in your hair when you have a special occasion, she says. A customer interrupts, asking for help. We say goodbye so Miss Laura can get back to work. You all take care now, and make sure you tell your mom I said hello. I will, I say. Before Dad and I walk back to the car, I give him the biggest hug I can. Squeeze him tighter than Millie did me. He squeezes back, and I promise, Dad, I'm gonna give you the best hug ever. You give the best hug ever. We walk to the car, me holding on to the pouch's strings, making sure I don't drop it. I think about asking to stop at the concession stand for my usual Saturday market treats, but I know Dad won't let me pay. And I know Dad has already spent money he didn't have to spend. Thank you, Dad, I tell him. Anything for you, he says. Our next stop is the library. The first thing I do is look for Miss Adair so I can show her my bingo sheets. My. You sure have been reading. This is fantastic, Ryan. She pulls her keychain from around her neck and says, I'll be right back with some special prizes for you. She disappears upstairs, and while she's away, I look through the shelves with Dad. What's on your list today? Dad says. Cookbooks, I say. I usually make up my own recipes, but I think it would be good to try out ones that are already perfect because they've been tested. With the baby coming soon, I want to be able to cook more and to help out. Even though Grandma and Aunt Rose will be over all the time and probably won't let me do anything, but simple prep work would be good. Maybe we can use the cookbooks and try out recipes together. Well, let's look over here, Dad says. There's a whole section of cookbooks for young chefs, and I want to check all of them out. But that's a whole lot of cooking, so I decide just to get two. One is for the meals and the other is for desserts. Dad and I look through the dessert cookbook and point out the ones we want to make first. The coconut cream pie is a must, he says. And the strawberry mousse too, I point out. And I look at the photo and I imagine how good it would smell if it was a scratch and sniff sticker. I turn to the page, and this looks good. And this looks good, and this looks good, I say, pointing to the walnut mint brownies. This is going to be so fun, Dad. Miss Adair is back and is carrying my prize. Since you have every box marked off, you get 4 movie passes with free popcorn included and a gift card to Alberta Street Books. Oh, thank you so much, Miss Adair. I put the cookbooks on the counter and I hand my library card to Miss Adair. Let me know if you need a taste tester for your new dishes, she says. I smile. Everyone, as you have listened to the poems and the excerpts from the novel, let's consider these questions. How does this poem make you feel? What are you beginning to think now that you were not thinking before? If you could turn your thoughts or feelings into actions right now, what would you do?